Hey everybody. In this video I'm taking a quick look at Space Hulk, which is the new turn-based strategy game based on the classic Space Hulk board game from the late 1980s, which was set in the Warhammer 40k universe. So this game actually just came out a few weeks ago on Steam, and it's made by Full Control, who were at least partially responsible, I think primarily responsible, for the Frontline Tactics game, which came out last year and was actually one of my favorite co-op experiences of the year. I also should mention that it's been recently announced that they are working on a new turn-based Jagged Alliance game, which is pretty exciting for those of us who miss the days when Jagged Alliance was a purely turn-based game. So I'm sure you can find all the information on that online, but for the sake of this video, let's jump in and play a little Space Hulk. So I've actually tried to record this video a couple of times, and I've kind of come to the conclusion that the best thing for me to do is just show me playing the game. Like, I could explain to you how all the mechanics and everything work, but honestly that's stuff you're going to be able to pick up from the tutorial on your own. I'm just going to call out a couple of very specific things that I've come across, but for the most part the tutorial does a very good job of explaining to you how to play. So I'm going to skip the first mission because it's kind of boring and not really all that exciting to watch. This one, on the other hand, has flamethrowers. So at the beginning of each mission, you'll get a nice narrated introduction that kind of breaks everything down for you. Be sure to pay specific attention to the mission objectives down here in the lower left so you know exactly what you need to do to complete the mission. But let's just jump in. Alright, so as I said, we are in basically the tutorial for the game, so you're going to get a lot of pop-ups like this explaining various things kind of as they become relevant, which is nice. Frontline Tactics did something similar. I'm sure they kind of are just carrying that idea forward from that game. Now, the one thing I will say that bears some explanation is when you're moving your guys around, if you want to maintain orientation when moving backwards, you can only move one square at a time. So say, for example, if I wanted to move this guy backwards but keep him facing in this direction, if I click here, I'm fine. He'll just take a step back and do exactly what you would think. But if I click here, you might get the impression, because that says 4, that it's just going to take 2 steps backward. But in actuality, what the game would end up doing is turning your unit 1 to the side, 1 again to this direction, using another point to step into this square, and using a 4th point to step into this square, which is where the 4 comes from. So if you wanted to click on this square but still maintain your orientation to the north there, what you would have to do is click and hold and move the mouse up there, which would produce the desired effect, but don't do that, because what you're actually going to end up doing is wasting movement points, because you'll see it's 4 plus 2. So what actually would end up happening if I executed this move is your unit would turn, step forward, turn back the other way, which is where the 6 points come from. So if you want to just maintain this orientation, just click once behind, and then once they're in this square, click once behind again, and you can get the same effect, only using 4 movement points. Now, movement points become particularly relevant because you only have 4 movement points per unit per turn, and you have this shared pool in the lower left, which is random, so each turn you'll get between 1 and 6 shared points to use. But like I said, I don't want to get too much into the mechanics, because it really is a typical turn-based strategy game, and that's not really something I need to explain, I think, to people who are interested in this sort of thing. I think most people understand how squad-based, turn-based strategy games work in general. But what I will say about this game is there are some aspects to it that maybe are a little contrary to what you're used to, so I'm going to try to focus on those. So again, if I want to maintain my orientation moving this guy, the best thing I can do is just keep stepping him backwards like this. And so that's going to take care of his movement points. Let's switch to our other unit and see what they need to deal with. So you'll notice that in the upper right hand corner here you can see the perspective of the selected unit. So he can see that this door here is jammed. In other words, it's not going to function properly if I just walk up to it and try to use it. So what I need to do instead is actually shoot it to get through it.
Path is clear.
That was actually really handy because, you know, sometimes that takes one shot, sometimes it takes two, sometimes it takes three. There are definitely some random elements to the game that you need to consider when planning out your tactics, because not everything happens the same way every time you do it in this game. So it's something to keep in mind. I think I can pretty safely just run up here to this intersection and try to get the most movement I can out of this turn. So I'll use my guy's remaining points plus the 2 shared points, and we'll see how many shared points I get for the next turn. Alright, so let's just make sure we're where we think we are. Okay, good times. Okay, so we got aliens coming out after the flamethrower guy, and aliens coming out after the bolter guy. Okay, so we actually got the maximum number of shared movement points this round, which is an excellent thing to have happen, considering how much we have to do in this turn. So I think what I'm going to do is have this guy use his flamethrower to take out the aliens that are around this corner. One thing I guess I should touch on just briefly is, you know, this indicator is showing that there could be between 1 and 3 aliens represented by this blip, is what they're called. So basically the idea is that until you have line of sight on the aliens, you actually don't know how many there are. You just know that there are some around this corner. Now once they step out, they'll have to reveal, the game will reveal how many aliens there actually are. But for my purposes, 1, 2, 3 aliens doesn't really matter. They all have to die. So what I'm going to do is whip out my heavy flamer here, and I'm going to position these flames a square in front of me, just give myself a square cushion, because sometimes the fire can spread unexpectedly, and I don't want it spreading into me. Although I don't think that's very likely to happen. Just to play it safe, we'll deploy it here. And that should easily take care of any aliens that were in that blip. You can see actually now the blip is gone, so whatever was there is probably dead now. And then my guy still has a couple movement points, so we'll just have him take another step backwards and maintain his orientation, just to put a little more distance between us and any alien that might want to munch our face. So moving over here, now I've still got 10 movement points to work with basically, which is ideal because as you'll remember from the objective screen, my objective here with this character is to get him to this other character and give him something so that we can both teleport out of here and end this mission. So what I want to do basically is move over here and prepare myself to defend myself against whatever aliens are over in this direction, but still get closer to the guy I'm supposed to be getting close to. So let's see, this would be 4 plus 3, that would be 7, and then I would need 2 points to turn around, and then another point to go on Overwatch. So I think, yeah, I can successfully come to this point, turn and face the aliens, and then put myself on Overwatch so that when they try to attack me, they get rocked. So let's try that. Yeah, 4 plus 5. There we go. Let's make a run for it. And I was just really lucky getting the 6 shared command points, because that's really going to allow me to make a much more aggressive move here than I would have been able to had I not gotten that many points.
Confirmed kill.
Okay. Oh, I guess there was only one. Well, why did that not let me? Why is that not letting me go on Overwatch? Do you need 2 points for Overwatch? I might have remembered that wrong. Yeah, I'm sorry. So Overwatch requires 2 points. That was my mistake. Well, the good news is the aliens only get 6 movement points per turn. So I don't think they'll be able to reach me. They'll just be able to get close. So I don't think that's a game-ending mistake. But had I wanted to do that properly, I should have gone to this square and then went on Overwatch. But I miscalculated the need for points there. So this game has actually been patched several times since its release to fix various bugs and glitches and such. And actually another thing that's worth pointing out about it is that the developers have indicated that they want to add a co-op mode to this at some point, which I think would be very welcome because games like this I feel like are really underrepresented when it comes to cooperative play. So I'm definitely looking forward to that, which is supposed to be a free update, which I think will get me playing this even more. But I'd say even as a single player or competitive multiplayer experience so far, I'm definitely enjoying it. It's just a question of, you know, how much more will I enjoy it once the co-op is in there. I think probably quite a bit. And again, who knows how many aliens were actually in those blips. We know there were at least one, but now they're both dead, so that's cool. And again, let's continue to move ourselves closer to the guy who's supposed to be helping us. I believe all I have to do is reach this guy and give him this object. So even though this alien is right in my face, what I may be able to do is just succeed at what I'm supposed to do and end the mission. Let's try that. Let's see if we can do that.
With all due haste.
Because some of these missions aren't necessarily about killing everything. They're just about accomplishing a goal. And once you accomplish the goal, you're basically good to go. Yeah, so I give him this item, and that will, yeah, complete the mission.
The enemy has been denied a victory.
So even though I could have, set myself up to kill those aliens in that hallway, that wasn't really the point of the mission. So we're just gonna call a win a win, and let's continue on. Let's do one more, so you get a sense of a little more
Squad Lorenzo is
complex
under attack.
mission.
With the return of Brother Zale, your brethren were tasked with
So
locating
basically, we have to
the
get to the safety area, and 3 units must survive. So that's basically the criteria for this mission.
More gene stealers than
I really like the narrator's voice, but I don't want to spend a lot of time in the video listening to it. Okay, so let's just get our units down, I guess. You can actually deploy those in any order you want, but for the purposes of this, I'm just going to throw them down.
Squad deployed.
Okay, so we do have some pretty powerful units on the battlefield now. We have like guys who actually could do some melee fighting if they had to, and one of the benefits that we get out of that is we get the ability to re-roll our shared point pool. So you see, in this case, we rolled a 1, so anything would be better than a 1. So I'm just going to roll it, and so you see now we gain some extra points to use this turn as a result of using that special ability. So here we have a Stormbolter character. Let's set them up to overwatch this corridor in case any aliens decide to get cute over here. So that'll be 3 + 1 for the orientation. And then I can use 2 of those communal points to put them on overwatch.
Affirmative.
And let's see, what do we have now? Looks like we've got a heavy flamer, so they're not going to be able to actually go on Overwatch this round, so let's just worry about getting them into a good position. Notice that units can move on diagonals from square to square and still only take one movement point to do that, so something to keep in mind when planning your tactics. Here we have another Storm Bolter. I wonder why that's 4 plus 2 just to go one more square. That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. I guess because I'd have to actually turn to go to that square. So to go from this square to this square, I can still be pointing in this direction, but to actually make that turn and get into this square is where the 2 is coming from. You know what I may do, though, is just go... Well, you know what, let's just... I'm a little bit worried about aliens coming from this direction. I would really ideally like to set up an Overwatch, but I don't think I have enough spare points to do that this round, unfortunately. Like, all I can really do is get this person where they belong, but I won't actually have enough spare points to Overwatch. Yeah, so there's the turn, and then moving into that square. It takes a little while to get the knack for exactly how and why the units move the way they do, so like, don't be surprised if you do start playing this game if it's a little weird at first. It's just kind of the way it is. And we just, now that we're out of command points, we just have to rely on what the units are capable of doing on their own. So basically we just want to get these guys out of this starting zone as quickly as possible. Okay. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I think we definitely want to have our flamethrower guy on point because they can really devastate enemy units with that ability. But let's not be crazy about moving them forward, especially not knowing when the aliens might show up. Also, we've only got 2 extra points this round, which is kind of a bummer. I think we're probably going to put these bolters on Overwatch this round and let these other units move up to back up the flamer. So let's go ahead and do that. So I think what we want to do for the most part is have these guys back up, maintain their orientation, go on Overwatch.
Securing area. Taking position.
So we're kind of covering our retreat, basically.
Let them come. And
just in case any aliens would happen to pop through this door, I think I can shoot past my teammate here, and I do still have 2 extra points to use. So let's put this guy on Overwatch. Let's see how things play out. Okay, so we got some blips there. No blips. Alright. Okay, so we got a decent number of extra action points to work with this round, which is good. Let's see if we can get this door open. Should be able to just toast these guys, I think. Yeah, so I think I want to use my extra movement points to get this guy out of the bottleneck so that the guys behind him can freely move into the extraction zone. This guy will just plug up this this potential point with his flamer. Okay, so what that basically means is you guys got to make a run for it and get to the extraction zone.
Yes, Commander. Objective logged.
And this really just goes to show what a powerful ability that flame unit has.
Moving out.
And what we definitely want to do is make sure we keep this guy on Overwatch in case anybody shows up from behind. So it's going to be 3. Let's see. If I want to maintain 3 points, I think what I actually want to do is let's go here. So it means I got 2 more movement points. Let's just turn this way. Go on Overwatch.
Holding.
And it should be in decent shape. I guess I can move somebody up closer. Yeah, let's just get these guys closer. Because remember, I only have to get 3 into the escape area, and there's actually only enough room for 3, so although if I recall correctly, I think when they enter that area, they actually teleport out. Yeah, unfortunately, that guy didn't have enough points to go on Overwatch, so he didn't even get a shot at killing that thing, sadly. Alright, so no aliens appearing from that direction, though. We'll just keep our flamethrower guy on deck just in case. So let's try a little experiment. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so you only have to get in there, which is good. Let's get a couple guys out. So basically we're going to guarantee our victory. Because no matter what happens, I'll be able to get a third guy into there.
Moving.
I think what I'll do, just to be clever, is just flame this hallway in case the aliens decide to make a run at me. That's a good fire distribution. That'll keep them rather busy. Alright, so we're out of points. Let's do this. So now they're coming in force, but as you can see, it's quite too late for that. And we out. So lost a unit there, which is a bit disappointing, but did alright.
Forces are free to advance on the objective. Prepare yourself for battle.
So hopefully that gives you a pretty good idea what this game is all about. Obviously things get a little more complicated in terms of scenarios and weapons and things that you can do. Obviously I don't want to spoil the rest of the game. Just know that there are several more campaign missions that you can play single player. There's a versus mode that you can play local hot seat or via network play, which is basically just Marines versus aliens. And like I said before, there's supposed to be a co-op mode being added, although I'm unsure as to whether that will be co-op for the campaign or just a co-op option in the regular competitive multiplayer, like in other words, teams of two versus each other. I'm hoping for campaign co-op because I'm thinking that's probably where the co-op would be most appreciated in a game like this. But even if they could add it into the skirmish mode too, that could make even that aspect a bit more fun. But I'd say, overall, I'm pretty pleased with the game so far. I think it's pretty good. There definitely have been some glitches and some bugs that have already been patched out, but given the developer's history, I think it's pretty likely that they'll just keep working at it and keep refining it until they kind of get it, to where it should be. It definitely gives me high hopes for what they might do with Jagged Alliance now that they have access to that IP to work with. Because as I said, when I covered Frontline Tactics last year, if that game had the metagame that Jagged Alliance does, it would have been a contender for me for Game of the Year. It was just that game was a little too simplistic in its scope to really capture my attention long term. But obviously being a fan of squad-based, turn-based strategy games as I am, games like this just kind of inherently appeal to me, and I think this is definitely a good stepping stone for them to take in terms of building up from Frontline Tactics to something like this, and then I could see them really knocking it out of the park with Jagged Alliance if they play their cards right. So again, this has been Space Hulk. I think it's pretty cool. Check it out for yourselves. If you are into these sorts of things, I don't think you'll be disappointed unless you're I'd say the only way you really could potentially be disappointed in this game, if you like turn-based, squad-based strategy, is if you're looking for a one-to-one, completely faithful reproduction of the board game rules. If you're willing to let some of that stuff slide in the service of video game gameplay, I think you'll be 100% fine with this game. And especially like if you're like me, someone who played the board game back in the day but hasn't played it in forever and kind of barely remembers what the rules were, I think you probably won't even notice the differences too much, because honestly for me this feels like how I remember playing the board game feeling. It's just a lot cooler to see everything animated and presented, in 3D like this, and with the user interface they have. I think they've hit the right balance between making things functional and making them look, at least interesting or fun to look at. So I think that's pretty much all I have to say about this. I doubt I will make any more videos about it because I think it's a pretty straightforward game. Hopefully you've gotten a pretty good idea of what it's all about from this. But definitely let me know what you think in the comments down below. Obviously, if you're into this kind of gameplay, be sure to check out my XCOM Classic Iron Man series, which is also on my channel. That's definitely a lot more of this kind of gameplay than you're likely to get out of this. So, yeah, I think that's about it. Have a good one, folks.